Good morning. My name is Seth, your Metro Detroit real estate expert. And today with me, as always, your mortgage expert, Steve Ross. How you doing today, Steve?
Doing fantastic.
Terrific. One point to hit on for me, and I'll let Steve work his magic. So, very good news here for Metro Detroit if you are currently a homeowner. If you're someone in the trenches looking to buy over the past year, I'm sorry to deliver this news to you. Detroit Metro has had the biggest increase year over year for home appreciation. We're at 16.3% here in Metro Detroit, which is just absolutely crazy. That's about double
16.3
16.3. Isn't that nuts?
in Metro Detroit
Metro Detroit.
in property appreciation.
Correct. That's what I'm reading.
Wow.
I know that's nuts. I mean, if you have a $250,000 house, your house now is worth almost 290 to 300,000. It's just crazy, crazy to think
That's
of. I
year
don't
over year.
That's year over year. Now I don't know. It's state of Detroit Metro. I don't know if they're taking into account the city itself because I know that's a big factor as well. But it does encompass everything, and I don't know what they use for their metrics. I think it was on Redfin, if I'm not mistaken. You're here in Metro Detroit. I think technically it's Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County, and maybe Livingston. Not 100% sure on that. But yeah, crazy, crazy. Now, Steve, I
That's
see rates are
amazing.
starting to creep down bit by bit. I think we're like 6.8 this morning. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Rates. I mean, so that's like what you see, and so you can follow it on Mortgage News Daily. Is a really good one you can follow, or you can look up like Freddie Mac does a good average rates thing, and those are both showing today like 6.8%. When depending on who you use, in the way you structure loans, most of what I'm doing right now is going to be around 6.625 for your 30-year loans, up to like 6.99%. And that's just going to be like anything else, right? It's based on what you qualify for, credit, down payment, what your cash to close situation might be. Government loans. So that's going to be like your FHAs and your VAs. We're seeing those like in the low sixes right now. Which if you think about it, so I was just talking to a client yesterday. So I did a loan for them in November of 2023, and they had some credit challenges at the time. So we did an FHA loan at 7.75%. And we're looking at an F8, their credit score came up from a below 600 score to now in the mid 600 scores. And we're doing an FHA streamline for them, covering their closing costs at 6.375%. So we're talking almost, if you do the math, because it's like a $446,000 loan, you do the math. I mean, we're saving them almost $500 a month
Wow,
in mortgage savings. So
incredible.
pretty awesome. So where there is, there's definitely some stuff out there. So like I've been telling, calling my clients and things like that from 7, 8 months ago, and we were really at the highs, like, hey, let's look at this. The other thing that I'm seeing, and it goes right along with what you had mentioned with property appreciation. So, for anybody out there that's watching this and you pay mortgage insurance, mortgage insurance is risk based, right? And so the amount that you pay and the way and just what PMI is, right? Private mortgage insurance is what you pay if you don't put down 20% of your loan. The reason for that is because like on a conventional loan is the easiest example, is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac insure that loan up to 80%. So if you default on that loan, as long as you follow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's guidelines, they will essentially reimburse you for the loan. They take the loss. They actually own the loan. It's a whole bunch of stuff, but Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac take the loss for that loan. Now, anything beyond 80%, they do not insure. And so you pay private mortgage insurance for that other 10 or 15% or whatever it is, and you pay that monthly. And mortgage insurance can be $40 a month to $250 a month. Well, it's based on your loan to value because that's the risk, right? So if you put down 10%, so you owe 90% of the value of the house, that PMI is going to be lower than somebody that owes 95% of the value of the house. And so when I'm looking at refinances for people now, yeah, maybe we're dropping your rate an eighth or a quarter of a percent. You get to skip a payment. We get your escrow account corrected with new property taxes and that kind of thing. But we've had people who are dropping their PMI $120 a month
Wow.
because of that property appreciation. Now they only have an 85% loan to value instead of a 95. Their house gone up 10%. Well, now your PMI's dropping $120, your payments dropping 50 or 60. So now you're almost saving $200 a month, getting your escrow account fixed. You're skipping a payment as you round out summer and finishing up your outside projects. All of a sudden it's like, God, this wasn't that much of a difference. And there's no headlines about rates, but this small incremental change in a refinance makes a lot of sense. So that's what we're seeing when you take that property appreciation and you add that to rates that are the same or a hair better. There's some small opportunities. And when it comes to mortgages, interest rates and PMI, you can't wear it or drive it or eat it. So like, why would you want to pay anything extra for it? There's no higher quality mortgage rates. You might as well just keep paying as little as you can. Then you just balance that with whatever the costs are to do that loan. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity opening up. The reason we're seeing that with rates coming down and the market's moving is we're seeing inflation, we're seeing year over year numbers decrease, right? So this is the growth rate of inflation. So this isn't the prices of goods going down. That should be important to be known. Like, we're not going to see prices be reduced. We're seeing the rate at which prices go up come down. And so as that inflation has gone down in the face of a growing stock market and a growing economy, and we're starting to see these prices cool, the markets are getting excited. So the Fed's kind of now going into this, okay, there's all these Fed governors saying there is now room for a conversation to talk about lowering rates. And they've never said that before. So the markets are getting excited. So interest rates today are predicated on a rate decrease in September of 0.25%. So any positive talk about rates in the Fed meeting next week or the week after, whenever it is at the end of this month, any positive talk about inflation or rates will only improve the markets. If the Fed was just like, they didn't say anything between now and when they lower rates, absolutely nothing happens. They lower rates, nothing really happens. When they lower those rates, it's not the rate drop that's going to change the market. It's going to be what's next that's going to change the market, because the market's already planning on a rate drop in a rate decrease, which would be 0.25% decrease in September. So that's already baked into the market. So now it's going to be, again, continuing to follow economic data. And we have this election in here. So there's been a little bit of, if you listen to some of the news, they're calling about the Trump rally in the markets and things like that, just because of a lot of the capital investment believes that he now has a higher chance of winning the election, which they believe is going to be better for business. And so we're starting to see the stock market and things like that ramp up outside of like the last 2 days. But so it'll just be interesting to see. Anytime you throw that election in there, the Fed also gets the idea of like, we want to be careful with lowering rates around an election, because they don't want to think, because the Fed is not politically motivated. They don't, like, the president can't tell them to lower rates and them lower rates. And they want to make sure that they remain very, there's definitely a separation between the Federal Reserve and the president, whether there is or not. I mean, there's plenty of theories out there about how all that works, but ideally they try to make it look like there's no political affiliation between the two. So we'll see. But the bright side is that houses, even if affordability means it's, the average payment right now is running between like $84 and $115 less than it was 60 days ago. That invites more people into the market, a little bit of inventory trickling in. We are in, I still call it the 4th of July lull. We're slowly starting to ramp back up, and we'll get this kind of end of the summer push. But
Right.
definitely rates are definitely a good place, and hopefully continuing to head in the same good direction.
Good deal. Awesome. Anything else, Steve?
No, that's it, man. That's all I got.
Perfect. Nice, short and sweet today. We will see you next week. As always. Thanks, Steve.
All right, you got it, man. Have a good one.